1997, Warner Brothers Pictures releases LA Confidential, starring Russell Crowe, Guy Pearce, Kevin Spacey, Kim Basinger, Dan DeVito, James Cromwell, and a slew of others. It was written by Brian Hedlund and Curtis Hanson, based on the book by James Ellroy, and was directed by Hanson. It was the winner of 2 Academy Awards of its 9 nominations, including Best Supporting Actress for Basinger and Best Adapted Screenplay by Henson and Hedlund. It went on to gross $64 million on a budget of $35. And I'm the Vern from Cinema Recall, and I'm here to ask, does this movie still hold up? We're going to take a small break. I'll play an ad from a podcast show that I think you should check out, and then I'll be back with my thoughts, alright?
We'll return after these messages.
Hello! Do you like having your podcast interrupted by promos? Probably not. So we'll keep this brief. My name is Chris.
My name is Mike.
And my name is Justin. And we just wanted to introduce ourselves. We're the Casual Cinecast.
We're a weekly podcast that reviews current movies and TV, as well as the occasional dive into classic cinema with the Criterion Collection.
We cover everything from Black Panther to Black Narcissus.
From Solo to Sallow.
From Love Simon to Simon of the Desert.
If that sounds good to you, look us up on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We'll see you there.
Or something, because we probably won't actually see you, but...
Yeah, we don't see them when they listen.
Right, well, okay. Back to your podcast.
This podcast is a proud member of the That Moment In podcast network. Check out the network at thatmomentin.com.
The Night Owl Massacre. This is a heinous crime that requires swift resolution.
3 cops thought they had it all figured out.
We need evidence.
I'll get the evidence.
I didn't kill nobody!
But what started as a murder became a mystery.
I never heard of the Night Owl till today.
More dangerous than they could imagine.
How about some payback, big time?
Even if it means paying the consequences.
LA Confidential, rated R.
Set in the early 50s, LA Confidential story focuses on 3 cops. Bud Wade, played by Russell Crowe, Ed Esley, played by Guy Pearce, and Jack Vincenzi, played by Kevin Spacey. White is used by Dudley the police chief, played by Cromwell, as muscle to help gather info from criminals in unorthodox ways. Vincenzi, he enjoys being an advisor for a famous cop show and being paid to bribe info for the publisher of a gossip magazine called Hush Hush, run by Dan DeVito's character. Ed Esley is a cop who follows the rules and doesn't take bribes, and Kim Basinger is Lynn Bracken, a Carl girl cut to look like Veronica Lake. Through each of their interactions with each other, they will discover truths about themselves that they have kept hidden for so long throughout the world, while also trying to solve a series of grisly crimes. Now, for me, the enjoyment of LA Confidential is in its structure. Because in the beginning of the movie, you have Dan DeVito's character giving you a monologue all about Los Angeles and about how great it is, and then he tells you about all the seedy side and the criminal acts that happen within this beautiful city. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of the intro to David Lynch's Blue Velvet, how in that movie it shows you a very picturesque style, Norman Rockwell style of families and kids and all that, and then it dives into the ground to see the ants. And I think this movie takes a similar approach with this intro. In the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to all of our main characters. We're introduced to Bud White, who experiences a domestic abuse and he attacks the abuser. We have Jack Vincenzi, who is a advisor to a famous police drama called Badge of Honor, and he's working with the Hush Hush editor trying to set up a bust of this famous celebrity using pot, and it's based on a real life story of Robert Mitchum being busted for pot. And even back then, if you were a celebrity and you did a crime, it was still treated as a promotional tool. All right, and then you have Ed Etchley, who is known as being one of the youngest cops in his division, and is showing that he's a real kind of go-getter, but he doesn't do any bribes, and he tries his best to do everything by the book. Now, I mentioned that there are a series of crimes that happen throughout this feature, and I'm not going to go into each one, but I do like the way how each one is revealed. Like if this was a TV series, which it was turned into years later with Kiefer Sutherland, but if this particular movie was a TV series, the first episode would be all about this brawl that happened in the police station, and then later on there is this shootout at a coffee shop, so another episode would be about that, or they would probably break it up and make it a whole season about the brutality at the station, and then the second season would all be about the coffee shop. Then we also have elements about Lynn Bracken, who of course played by Kim Basinger. She plays a call girl cut to look like Veronica Lake. In fact, there's many women who are cut to look like famous celebrities. That could be its own episode or own season as well. But what makes this film fascinating is how each of the three main cops, how they first are perceived, how they see themselves be perceived this way, and then eventually how they change that perception. Like I mentioned before, Bud White is seen as a very kind of brute character. He goes and attacks things by force, and he just seems to be just muscle and nothing else. But him and Lynn Bracken, they have very nice, heartwarming moments together. Then you have Ed Etchley, who seems like he's a straight-laced guy, does everything by the books, is very honorable. But there are moments that happen that shows that he's a brute as well. Especially when you watch him with Lynn Bracken, his moment with her feels really kind of violent, and Bud's moments with her feel very sweet. Now, the question of whether this movie still holds up or not, I think it does in certain aspects, but I know few people will take issues on how the way certain races are treated in this movie. And the movie is set in the early 50s, and there was a lot of racism that went around in that time. I don't believe that any of the characters in this movie is racist. I do believe that some of them, yes, they are completely racist, but I don't think that's because you have a movie with racist characters means that your movie itself is racist. Many people will take issue for the fact that all the criminals are of ethnic background, and that the only woman in this that has a role is an escort, a call girl, a hooker. She's the only one that's featured in this, so I'm sure some people may take issues to that aspect of it, but Lynn Bracken's not dumb. You know, she knows exactly what she wants. She does have a good heart on her. I still think she's just used as a plot device, but she does bring out certain things in other characters, so it's really hard to say. I do love the look of this. It has this great feeling of you actually living in Los Angeles in the early 50s, and there's a great feature on the Blu-ray that talks about all the famous scenes or all the famous locations that are in this movie. So yeah, I think it still holds up today. You just have to take the notion that it was the early 50s and America was at a racist times. That's why you probably don't see a lot of like black cops, or you see like, you know, cops of different ethnic backgrounds as cops in this. And movies of that time too, they didn't really have a lot of like strong female characters, I guess. So maybe it's trying to just look back. It's trying to basically be a film of that time and actually be legitimate. but I'm sure there's going to be probably people out there that will take issues with the aspect, especially about the lack of strong female characters and the lack of strong ethnic characters as well. But if you can just take into the notion right there that this was just how America was, and it was, if we were a racist country. In fact, I still think that now we're still a racist country, but we're getting better at it. But anyways, folks, I still think LA Confidential is a fun movie, especially if we go into it completely blind. So before Curtis Hanson directed LA Confidential, he directed The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and The River Wild, both kind of fun suspense features. And then after that movie, LA Confidential, the next big movie he directed was 8 Mile starring Eminem. Now for the writer Brian Hedlund, before he wrote LA Confidential, he wrote A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, 97 Cents Evil, and then after LA Confidential, he helped write A Nate's Tale, he wrote Payback, he wrote Mist River, Man on Fire. I do recommend checking out the 2006 special edition Blu-ray DVD. It's got like a lot of cool like commentary tracks and behind the scenes footage. It even has the pilot of the TV series of LA Confidential starring Kiefer Sutherland, which is kind of a fun nostalgia thing to check out, but it's nothing really that special. Anyways, folks, if I had to rate this movie, I think when I first saw the movie, when it came out, I think I gave it a 4 out of 4 stars. I think now I probably go with around maybe 3 out of 4 stars. I think it still is a good movie. All the actors in this are do a good job. It's got a great storyline. Even though I've seen this movie many times before, there are moments in this that surprised the hell out of me, and I had no idea where it was coming from. So yeah, I think I'm still rated now 3 out of 4 stars. Does it still hold up today? Yes, I still think it does, regardless of the other things I talked about. But that's it right now. Let me know what you think about this. Do you like this sort of things? Do you not? Let me know in the comments or on our social media page, which is, of course, Twitter is cinema_recall. Facebook is just Cinema Recall Podcast. We're also on Instagram. Just type in Cinema Recall Podcast. Email us, cinemarecall@gmail.com. Anyways, folks, I'm the Vern. I'm signing off right now, folks, and I will catch you later. Goodbye.